Sham Sharadava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Ghana Ghanatam Shamsharadava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Ghana Ghanatam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditramadya Manasurasena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dhana Nityanana Shringaratanama Diramajanado Dhananityanana Shringaratanama Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyonjatapi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Shangan Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satana Triptan Kridaiva Tripte Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Bhajata Shadeva Shiradikama Dabayara Param Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Param Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Ne Kunja Yuno Pratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bher Jukti Apekshaniya Ne Kunja Yuno Pratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bher Jukti Tatrati Dakya Ativalabhasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Ativalabhasya Vande Gurashi Sakjadharitena Shamasta Shastri Uktastatha Bhavyataiva Sadvi Vena Samasta Shastri Uktastatha Kintu Prabhoja Priyaiva Tasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Dhyayam Stovam Tasya Yashasti Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Vande Gurashi Dhyayam Stovam Stasya Yashasti Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Dhyayam Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatyari Shatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatyari Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Bo Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hariyaraye Nama Krishna, Jadavaye Nama Hare. Jadavaye Madhavaya Kesavaye Nama. Gopal Govindaram Shrimadhusudan Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghuna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Devo. Hare Shri Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra Subhadrama Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuma. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo, Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhansa Parivajagacharya Astottara Sarashishimadi Skon Pratishta Viviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Saramani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhaktidatta Patita Pavana His Divine Grace Abhay Charavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai Shri Gaurya Guru Varga Patitu Dhari Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhus Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Jayananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gauru Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Paramadayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Prema Nama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Sachinandan Shriman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gauru Hari Mahavrinaya Avatar Ki Jai गोलोकेर प्रमदान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जग की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहदांग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपिना राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुरा की जय। देलोशिव शिष्य राधा नीलमाधव की जय। शिष्य मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण शिष्य गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रदेवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना कर सिंहदेव भगवान की जय। जगंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। बोलो श्री मथुरा धारानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रमानंदे। All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Shri Guru. Shri Guru.
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय।
Namaste Narasimhaya.
प्रह्लादलाददायिने
Dadayine.
हिरण्यकशिपूर्वक्षः
Hiranyakashipu
वक्षः
Vaksha.
शीलटङ्कानकालये
Silatankanakalaye.
हितो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा
Ito Nisimha Parato Nisimha.
यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा
Jato Jato Jami Tato Nisimha.
बाहिर्नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये
Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapade.
तव करकमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गान्दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तानुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव करकमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गान्दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तानुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Jaya Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha
देव जय नरसिंह देव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय भक्त प्रहलाद
जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
जय जय
गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की
जय।
जय भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की
जय।
गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि
हरि बोल। श्री वृंदाई तुलसी दिव्याय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्ववत्याय नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी दिव्याय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण
सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी।
ये तुम्हार शरण लो तारा वांछ पूर्ण हो
जे तुम्हार शरण लो तारा वांछ पूर्ण।
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावनवासी
तुम कृपा करे करतारे
वृंदावनवासी मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास
मोरा ये
अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास कायने हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि
अमिनाया सदा जुगल रूप राशि हे निवेदन धार सखीरानुगत कुरु हे निवेदन धार सखीरानुगत कुरु सेवा अधिकार दिए करो निज दासी सेवा अधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा हो दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेम सदा ये न बासी
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेम सदा ये न बासी
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च
पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति
प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति
प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा
कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम
राम
राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे
हरे राम
राम राम हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani,
Jaya
Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi,
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi,
Jaya
Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada,
Jaya Jaya
Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya
Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Shri Vrindayai Tulasidevai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradedeve Satyavataye Namo Namah. Vrindayai Tulasidevai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradedeve Satyavataye Namo Namah. Vrindayai Tulasi Devyai Priyayai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Pradedeve Satyavataye Namo Namah. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire that also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavidamsas of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha Govind. Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Okay, let's remember the 10 offenses. Again, the chanting the holy name with the rules that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme the Lord is dedicated life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Should we start over again? Okay, the first offense is to blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2, to consider names the demigods, the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of name. Obey the orders of the spiritual master. 4, to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance of Vedic version. 5, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6, to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. 8, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which often Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. 9, to instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10, to not have complete faith in chanting the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let's offer most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrindi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam ki jai. Chaito Darpanam Bhavamada-Vagnanirvapanam Shreyakariva Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Shradanam Sarvatmasnam Param Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Itadishi Tava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam Idrishamiya Janina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Na Dhanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Vajagari Shakamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishari Bhavatar Bhakti Rahaitu Kitwai Oi Nandatanu Jakinkaram Patitama Visame Bhavam Budho Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Dhuli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galora Shrudharaya Badanam Gada Gadarudaya Gira Pulakairi Chitam Bapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavisyati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakyusha Prabhusaitam Sunya Itam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Asli Shaba Padaratam Pinashtumam Adarshanar Marmahatam Karotuva Jatata Taba Viradhatulam Patro Matprana Tastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam ki jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Tvishema. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shrunavadi Pachatyari Shatarine. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditioned life or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays and the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which all is anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, Out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once we chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your casual devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, some or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the Lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on end to the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering moment to 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and you should remain so, even if sandals me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Namaste.
Shri Guru Pranam Mangala Charan ki jai. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatha Vintam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padayo Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminitinam Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Patsatyadi Satarine Nama Om Vishnu Padayo Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti namine Shri Varshavana Videvi Daya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Daine Prabhave Namah Madhurjojala Primadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravane Shri Murthaye Rinatarine Rupanuga Virudha Posidanta Dantarine Namagora Kishoraya Sakchavera Murtaye Vipralambar Sambodhe Panabhujayate Namah Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchit Anandanamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumetsvam Nirdesha Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarva Bhuma Sri Jagannatayate Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaranayo Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnayo Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurati Namaha Panchatattamakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataro Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanto Namostute Jayatam Suratopangor Mama Mandamatir Gatir Masarvasva Padam Bhujo Radha Madanamonu Divya Vindaranya Kalpadmadha Shmara Nagara Shingasanastu Shmara Shila Govinda Devo Kristali Vishivamano Shmarami Shman Rasara Sarambhivam Shivata Tatastita Karshan Venu Sanar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrusabhanusati Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki
Jai. Jai Gaura Hari Pramana.
Shrimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Lama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So how are the roads? Are they clear?
No, Maharaj.
No, they're slippery.
Slippery.
Really?
Yes. Slippery, Maharaj.
Wow. Be careful.
Yes.
Okay. Is it still snowing? No.
No, not now. Not now.
Okay. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 8. Verse number 21.
21 we finished.
Yeah, we're going to go over it a little bit. Yeah, we have done that.
22.
Okay. All right, we'll do 22. Kalena soja purushayu sabbi
Kalena soja purusayusabhi
pravritta yogena viruddha bodha
pravritta yogena viruddha bodha
swayam tad antar hridayeva bhatam
swayam tadantar hridayeva vatam
apasyata yanna purvam
apasyata yanna purvam
kalena
kalena
in due course of time
in due course of time
sa
sa
he
he
aja
aja
the self-born
the self-born
Brahma
Brahma
Purusha Ayusha
Purusha Ayusa
by the duration of his age
by the duration of his age
Abhipravrita
Abhipravrita
being engaged
being engaged
Yogena
yogena
in meditation
in meditation
Viruddha
viruddha
developed
developed
Bodha
bodha
intelligence
intelligence
Swayam
swayam
automatically
automatic
Tat Anta Hridaya
tat anta hridaye
in the heart
in the heart
Avabhatam
avabhatam
manifested
manifested
Apasyata
apasyata
saw
sa
Apasyata
apasyata
did see
did see
yet
yet
which
which
na
na
not Purvam
purvam
before.
before
Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result, he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord can be experienced only through the process of devotional service, and not by one's personal endeavor in mental speculation. The age of Brahma is calculated in terms of divya years, which are distinct from the solar years of the human beings. the Divya years are calculated in Bhagavad Gita 8.17. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Vidu. Brahma's one day is equal to 1,000 times the aggregate of the 4 yugas, calculated to be 4,300,000 years. On that basis, Brahma meditated for 100 years before he could understand the supreme cause of all causes. And then he wrote the Brahma Samhita, which is approved and recognized by Lord Chaitanya, and in which he sings, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. One has to wait for the mercy of the Lord before one can either render service unto him or know him as he is. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result, he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor. Okay, so ultimately, Brahma meditated for 311 trillion 40 billion years before he could see Krishna. And then he's going to live another 311, 40 billion years. So we can see how difficult it was for Brahma to realize and understand his relationship with Krishna. That doesn't mean we have to do the same thing today. We've explained it already. Lord Chaitanya has made the process much, much easier. And also, we can't live such a long duration of life. We have at most 100 years. So, Brahma sees in his heart. That's very important. It says, and as a result, he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor. We should all pray that we can see Krishna within our heart. We should at least understand theoretically that that's a fact. But it can also be seen practically. Proof is Brahma. That's why we're taking some time out to really understand how Brahma attained his position of being such an exalted devotee. Okay, so in other words, no one can attain spiritual, let's say, understanding without tapasya. Tapasya means that we voluntarily accept something that is difficult, but we do it because we want to come closer to Krishna. Without coming closer to Krishna, we stay perpetually in the process of birth and death, which is very painful and very, let's say, full of suffering. So, we'll go back now to the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse number 11, where it says, Brahma's speaking here. He says, I create after the Lord's creation by his personal effulgence, known as the Brahma Jyoti. Just as when the sun manifests its fire, the moon, the firmament, the influential planets, and the twinkling stars also manifest their brightness. So, in the purport, Prabhupada says, Lord Brahmaji said to Narada that his impression that Brahma was not the supreme authority in the creation was correct. Sometimes less intelligent men have the foolish impression that Brahma is the cause of all causes. But Narada wanted to clear the matter by the statements of Brahmaji himself. The supreme authority in the universe. In other words, Brahma is the supreme authority in the universe, but he wants to make it clear to Narada that he is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Narada wanted to clear the matter up by the statements of Brahmaji, the supreme authority in the universe, as the decision of the Supreme Court of a state is final. Similarly, the judgment of Brahmaji, the supreme authority in the universe, is final in the Vedic process of acquiring knowledge. As we have already affirmed in the previous verse, Naradaji was a liberated soul. Therefore, he was not one of the less intelligent men who accept a false god or gods in their own ways. He represented himself as less intelligent and yet intelligently presented a doubt to be cleared by the supreme authority, so that the uninformed might take note of it and be rightly informed about the intricacies of the creation and the Creator. In this verse, Brahmaji clears up the wrong impression held by the less intelligent and affirms that he creates the universal variegatedness after the potential creation by the glaring effulgence of Lord Shri Krishna. So in other words, Lord Krishna uses the Brahma Jyoti as the creative energy that creates planets and nature and all these different things. It doesn't create the living entities, but creates all these other things in the material world. In this verse, Brahmaji clears up the wrong impression held by the less intelligent and affirms that he creates the universal variegatedness after the potential creation by the glaring effulgence of Lord Shri Krishna. Brahmaji has also separately given this statement in the Samhita known as the Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, verse 40, where he says, Yasya prabha prabhavato jagaranda koti, koti svaseso sadadi vibhuti binam, tad brahma niskalam anantam asesa bhutam, govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. I serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental bodily effulgence, known as the Brahma Jyoti, which is unlimited, unfathomed, and all-pervasive, is the cause of the creation of unlimited numbers of planets, etc., with varieties of climates and specific conditions of life. So here, this is an alternate translation of this verse. If you read this verse in the Brahma Samhita, it doesn't sound like this, but it does have the same meaning, but you don't see it so directly. But here is a direct translation. It makes it clear that the Brahma Jyoti is the source of creation, and that Brahma Jyoti is the light coming from the body of Krishna. It means that Krishna is the ultimate supreme creator of everything. Then it says, the same statement is in the Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, 27th verse. Lord Krishna is the background of the Brahma Jyoti. Brahmanu hi pratistaham, that's 1427, the first line. In the Nirukti, or Vedic dictionary, the import of pratista is mentioned as that which establishes. So the Brahma Jyoti is not independent or self-sufficient. Lord Shri Krishna is ultimately the creator of the Brahma Jyoti, mentioned in this verse as Swarojisa, or the effulgence of the transcendental body of the Lord. In other words, all energies in the material world come from the Brahma Jyoti, and the Brahma Jyoti is coming from Krishna himself as his effulgence. So Brahma is saying, look, I'm at the most, I'm what you would call a secondary creator. But Krishna is the primary creator, and there shouldn't be any doubt about this. This Brahma Jyoti is all-pervading, and all creation is made possible by its potential power. There's the point. Just like, we're getting power here right? This electricity is coming here. We can put the lights on. We have heat. We can cook. So many things. But where's this power coming from? It's ultimately coming from the Brahma Jyoti. And where's the Brahma Jyoti coming from? It's coming from the body of Krishna. This Brahma Jyoti is all-pervading, and all creation is made possible by its potential power. Therefore, the Vedic hymns declare that everything that exists is being sustained by the Brahma Jyoti. Sarvam klav idam Brahma. Therefore, the potential seed of all creation is the Brahma Jyoti, and the same Brahma Jyoti, unlimited and unfathomed, is established by the Lord. Therefore, the Lord, Sri Krishna, is ultimately the supreme cause of all creation. Aham sarvasya prabhava. That's 10th chapter, 8th verse. He says, everything material and spiritual comes from me, Krishna says. One should not expect the Lord to create like a blacksmith with a hammer and other instruments. The Lord creates by his potencies or his powers. He has multifarious potencies. Parasya Shakti Vividaiva Sruyate. Just as the small seed of a banyan fruit has the potency to create a big banyan tree, the Lord disseminates all varieties of seeds. So that's a major statement right there. That means that Krishna creates through seeds. Well, we can understand that as far as plants go, but it's a little harder to understand how that happens when you're talking about creation, the whole creation. But this is not just a metaphor, it's a fact that the Lord disseminates all varieties of seeds by his potential Brahma Jyoti. And the seeds are made to develop by the watering process of persons like Brahma. Brahma cannot create the seeds, but he can manifest the seed into a tree, just as a gardener helps plants and orchards to grow by the watering process. The example cited here of the sun is very appropriate. In the material world, the sun is the cause of all illumination, fire, electricity, the rays of the moon, etc. All luminaries in the sky are creations of the sun. The sun is the creation of the Brahma Jyoti, and the Brahma Jyoti is the effulgence of the Lord. Thus, the ultimate cause of creation is the Lord. There's an amazing purport. If you want to understand how things are happening in the universe. But the very significant statement is, the Lord disseminates all varieties of seeds by his potential Brahma Jyoti, or Swarojisa, and the seeds are made to develop by the watering process of persons like Brahma. Brahma cannot create the seeds, but he can manifest the seed into a tree, just as a gardener helps plants and orchards to grow by the watering process. So this is a very profound statement. So then the next verse, 12, this is 2, 5, 12. And it says, I offer my obeisances and meditate upon Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, whose invincible potency influences them, the less intelligent class of men, to call me the supreme controller. So again, Brahma is making it very clear that he is not supreme God. He's just a servant of Krishna. But Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So, this should be understood by everyone. If Lord Brahma says so, and also all the Mahajans, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and Yamaraj, and Narada Muni, and Brahma himself, and Sukadeva Goswami, they all say Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There shouldn't be any doubt. So it says, as will be more clearly explained in the next verse, the illusory potency of the Lord bewilders the less intelligent to accept Brahmaji, or for that matter, any other person, as the Supreme Lord. Brahmaji, however, refuses to be called this, and he directly offers his respectful obeisances unto Lord Vasudeva or Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, and he has already offered the same respects to him in the Brahma Samhita. Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. The Supreme Lord is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the prime evil Lord, in his transcendental body, the ultimate cause of all causes. I worship that prime evil, Lord Govinda. So Brahmaji is conscious of his actual position, and he knows how less intelligent persons, bewildered by the illusory energy of the Lord, whimsically accept anyone and everyone as God. A responsible personality like Brahmaji refuses to be addressed as the Supreme Lord by his disciples or subordinates. And by the way, that's the main qualification of a bona fide guru. Not only he says, I am not God, but he won't let his disciples or followers say he's not God. Usually, there are gurus that don't say anything. When someone says, are you God? They don't say anything. Right? But then their disciples say, yes, he is God. Right? That means he's not a bona fide guru. But if he says, no, I'm not God, I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the servants of God. Dasa, 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 dasana, dasa. And he doesn't let his disciples or followers say he's God. That's a real guru. That's number one qualification of guru. There are other qualifications of guru, such as he follows what he preaches. In other words, if he says don't smoke cigarettes, he doesn't smoke cigarettes. Don't associate closely to materialistic people. He doesn't associate closely with materialistic people. So he follows what he teaches, and what he teaches has to be only what Krishna says. That's the second most important qualification of guru, bona fide guru. He's in the disciplic succession, and he doesn't say anything that Krishna has never said. He always repeats Krishna's words as they are, without adding or subtracting anything. So number one, he doesn't say he's guru, God. He doesn't let his disciples or followers say he's God. Number two, he follows what he preaches. He doesn't say, well, do as I say, but don't do as I do. No, he does according to what he preaches. And what he preaches, number three, is only what Krishna says, and what has been repeated also by the acharyas. He doesn't say, well, I got a new idea now. What? What new idea? We don't need any new ideas. We want to hear Krishna's teaching. We don't want to hear some speculation. Okay, so those are three qualifications of bona fide guru. Now, number four, bona fide guru will inspire his disciples to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and follow the regulative principles strictly. Why? Because that's the formula for success in spiritual life. That's the formula for success in everything. Spiritual life, material life, in every way. unfortunately, people are not doing that today, and because of that, there's a lot of unnecessary suffering. You can read about it every day in the news, the terrible amount of suffering that's going on. But if people would simply follow these 4 regulative principles and chant Hare Krishna, most of that suffering would go away. Okay, so it says, Brahmaji is conscious of his actual position, and he knows how less intelligent persons, bewildered by the illusory energy of the Lord, whimsically accept anyone and everyone as God. A responsible personality, like Brahmaji, refuses to be addressed as the Supreme Lord by his disciples or subordinates, but foolish persons praised by men of the nature of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses feel flattered to be addressed as the Supreme Lord. Why such persons take pleasure in being addressed as God, or why such persons are addressed as God by foolish admirers, is explained in the following verse. This is getting more and more interesting. Next verse, 2:5-13. The illusory energy of the Lord, by the way, we read all this already. I mean, we went through the whole second canto, right? You see how much we can forget. The illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position, but those who are bewildered by her always talk nonsense, being absorbed in thoughts of it is I and it is mine. Well, have you ever heard Obama speak? I, all the time. Or if you ever heard Elon Musk speak, I, all the time. I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. And Trump also, yeah. Make America great again. I did this, I did that. You see. So these are all, that means they're completely under the control of the illusory energy, or Maya. And they're bewildered by her, always, and they always talk nonsense, being absorbed in thoughts of, it is I, it is mine. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the invincibly powerful deluding energy of the personality of Godhead, or the third energy, meaning Maya, representing nescience, can bewilder the entire world of animation, but still she is not strong enough to be able to stand in front of the Supreme Lord. Nescience, or ignorance, is behind the personality of Godhead, where she is powerful enough to mislead the living beings, and the primary symptom of bewildered persons is that they talk nonsense. Yeah, so our homework is to make a list of people talking nonsense. Yeah. Like Elon Musk, we're going to go to Mars. We're going to set up communities up there. This is nonsense. There's no way they're going to do that, right? Or George Bush, we have to colonize the moon. Yeah, George. Ha ha ha, nonsense. Right. So try and write down a series of nonsense statements by nonsense people. Right? Like for example, I remember. Huh?
Will be a huge list for us.
Yeah, it'll be a huge list, right? No, you don't have to go. You don't have to. Yeah, but one of the biggest nonsense was Joe Biden years ago. He said the way you get out of an economic downturn is to spend more money. You know, the more money you spend, then you can get out of the economic downturn. What? What is it? I mean, does that make sense? Right? I mean, That's why there is an economic downturn. That means, people are making less money. So how are you going to get out of it? That's what he's saying. But what he means is the government should print more money. But that doesn't end an economic downturn. There's a law of economics. If you throw bad money after good money, it just makes the whole situation worse. So bad money is printed money that you have no backing of, right? So anyway, yeah, you write down a few nonsense statements if you can look them up. Yeah. Not supported by the principles of Vedic literatures. And first grade nonsense talk is, it is I, it is mine. A godless civilization is exclusively conducted by such false ideas. Wow, look at that. Is exclusively conducted. Look at that. That's a huge statement. It says, a godless civilization is exclusively conducted by such false ideas and such persons without any factual realization of God, except a false God or falsely declared themselves to be God, to mislead persons who are already bewildered by the deluding energy. Those who are therefore the Lord, those who are before the Lord, however, and who surrender unto him, cannot be influenced by the deluding energy. Therefore they are free from the misconception of, it is I, it is mine. And therefore they do not accept a false God or pose themselves as equal to the supreme God. Identification of the bewildered person is distinctly given in this verse. Yeah, the person who says, it's me, it's I, me, mine. Yeah. Okay. So it's a very interesting, it's the second canto, 5th chapter. It's a very interesting chapter, but I don't want to read the whole thing. It gets more and more detailed. Okay, well, we'll just read one more verse, text 14. The 5 elementary ingredients of creation, the interaction thereof set up by eternal time, and the intuition or nature of the individual living beings are all differentiated parts and parcels of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, and in truth, there is no other value in them. This is a very subtle verse. Let's see what the purport says. This phenomenal world is impersonally the representation of Vasudeva, because the ingredients of its creation, their interactions, and the enjoyer of the resultant action, the living being, are all produced by the external and internal energies of Lord Krishna. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.4 and 5. 7th chapter, 4th and 5th verse. The ingredients, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, as well as the conception of material identity, intelligence, and the mind, are produced of the external energy of the Lord. The living entity, who enjoys the interaction of the above gross and subtle ingredients as set up by the eternal time, is an offshoot of internal potency, with freedom to remain either in the material world or in the spiritual world. In the material world, the living entity is enticed by deluding nescience or ignorance. Well, those are all the nonsense statements made by people, right? These deluding ignorance. But in the spiritual world, he is in the normal condition of spiritual existence without any delusion. The living entity is known as the marginal potency of the Lord. But in all circumstances, neither the material ingredients nor the spiritual parts and parcels are independent of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. For all things, whether products of the external, internal, or marginal potencies of the Lord, are simply displays of the same effulgence of the Lord, just as light, heat, and smoke are displays of fire. None of them are separate from the fire. All of them combine together to be called fire. Similarly, all phenomenal manifestations, as well as the effulgence of the body of Vasudeva, are his impersonal features, whereas he eternally exists in his transcendental form called Satchitananda Vigraha, distinct from all conceptions of the material ingredients mentioned above. This is an amazing purport. In other words, it's saying everything's coming from Krishna. That includes everything spiritual and everything material. And even though the material energy looks like it seems to be separate from Krishna, still it's controlled by him. And it manifests many different things that confuse us. But a devotee who's situated properly is not confused. He understands this one verse, Aham sarvasya prabhava, matak sarva pavartate. Krishna says, everything material and spiritual is coming from me. So therefore he says here, but in all circumstances, neither the material ingredients nor the spiritual parts and parcels are independent of the personality of Godhead Vasudeva. And for all things, whether products of the external, internal, or marginal potencies of the Lord, are simply displays of the same effulgence of the Lord, just as light, heat, and smoke are displays of fire. None of them are separate from the fire. All of them combine together to be called fire. Similarly, all phenomenal manifestations, as well as their effulgence, as well as the effulgence of the body of Vasudeva, are his impersonal features, whereas he eternally exists in his transcendental form, called Satchitananda Vigraha, distinct from all conceptions of the material ingredients mentioned above. Okay, so now we're going to go to the Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse number 5. To know more about Brahma, because in the third canto we're studying about Brahma, but there was already a lot of information about Brahma in this second canto, especially what we're going to read now. So, second canto, chapter 9, verse number 5. Lord Brahma, the first spiritual master, supreme in the universe, could not trace out the source of his lotus seat. And while thinking of creating the material world, he could not understand the proper direction for such creative work, nor could he find out the process for such creation. So, here we're running into the same narrative that's in the Brahma Samhita, that's in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahma appears without a father and mother, and he's confused. And the creation, material creation, hasn't happened yet, and he can't figure out. I mean, he goes all over the stem of the lotus flower, which includes the whole universe, and it's all dark. He doesn't see anything. So he goes back and sits on the whorl or the top of the lotus flower, and he's trying to figure out, who am I? What is my purpose in life? What am I supposed to do? He doesn't know. So it says that he could not find out the process for such creation. He wants to create, but he doesn't know how to do it. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, this verse is the prelude for explaining the transcendental nature of the form and the abode of the Lord. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it has already been said that the Supreme Absolute Truth exists in his own abode without any touch of the deluding energy. Therefore, the kingdom of God is not a myth, but factually a different and transcendental sphere of planets known as the Vital. Will be explained in this chapter. Such knowledge of the spiritual sky far above this material sky and its paraphernalia can be known only by dint of devotional service or bhakti yoga. The power of creation by Lord Brahma was also achieved by bhakti yoga. Brahmaji was bewildered in the matter of creation, and he could not even trace out the source of his own existence. But all this knowledge was fully achieved by him through the medium of bhakti yoga. By bhakti yoga, one can know the Lord, and by knowing the Lord as the Supreme, one is able to know everything else. See, that's why we should teach our children this. Because if you know Krishna, you know everything. Because everything is coming from him. If you don't know Krishna, you'll never know everything, and you'll always be confused. And that's what modern education does. It just confuses people more. Look what they're doing now. You send your kids to school, and in first grade, second grade, third grade, they already teach them that, if you're a little boy but you want to be a girl, you can be a girl. And if you're a little girl and you want to be a boy, you can be a boy. And they will also secretly change the sex of your child without you knowing about it. You want to look it up? Huh? It's happening all the time. No, physically they change them. They let the child get a sex change operation without letting the parents know.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
I actually had experience with this, what you are saying.
Go right ahead.
When I saw that, I saw, okay, Maharaj already told about this. Once, I think...
I've been talking about it a lot.
Yeah. Last month, I think I went to Overlake Hospital something.
What?
Overlake Hospital.
What?
Overlake Hospital. Hospital, Maharaj.
Overlake Hospital, okay.
I was sitting where I went to restroom. I was in a men's room. I saw one lady is doing eyelashes. I came back and said, am I right bathroom? He said, yeah, you are right. Then I went back and looked at it. He's a man only, but his eyelashes. And I came back after that. I told my wife, and this guy came in girl dress and sitting next to her. I told Ashara, this is a lady, girl or boy? I cannot understand, I said.
Okay.
I really confused Maharaj. He's doing eyelashes. He's girl with the girl dress.
No, I'm telling you, this is worse than that. That's an adult.
Yeah.
You send your kid to school, they can change the sex of the kid without you knowing about it.
Oh my God, that's even worse.
Look that up. You're going to see it's happening all over the country now. What did it say? What does it say? See? Without the knowledge or consent of their parents.
Yeah. It says this is a Washington law.
What?
It's apparently Washington law now. Washington laws now allow teen gender reassignment surgery without parental consent.
There it is. Without parental consent. They do it secretly.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It's very terrible. How would you feel if one day your kid comes home from school and has a dress on, and you say, "What's going on?" He said, "I changed my sex." You didn't even know about it. They didn't ask your permission. They just went ahead and did the operation, and now your kid is no longer a boy; it's a little girl. It's happening right now, all over the country. Now, you saw an adult, that's different. We're talking about kids, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, teenage kids. It's happening before that now. Every state can be different. Yeah.
There is no rules of after 18 or it's not a rule. After 18 they can do without guardian permission.
No, it's in Washington State, it's 13 years old, without you knowing about it. They can convince your kid to change their sex, and they'll go right ahead and do it, and they'll do a medical, operation. You don't know anything about it. This is crazy. Okay. So, I didn't want to scare you, but this is...
We get to hear many revealing things in your classes. We never read these things by ourselves, but
It will cost na, so kid will take our credit card or money from us.
No. They pay for it. The
state
government
for it.
pays for it.
That's one benefit. Just-
The government pays for it. Huh? They're convincing the child. It's not they're taking. They're convincing the child.
I was in 11-year-old, 13-year-old, I also thought about the those stuff.
All I wanted to say was there was a website showing that LGBT think this is okay, that this gender affirming care is as little as 9 on Seattle Children's.
9 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you.
And then they redirect you somewhere else if you're over 17.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll try and finish up real quick here. So it says, okay, so then it says, I'm going to go to the next verse, verse 6, not 296. It says, while thus engaged in thinking in the water, Brahmaji heard twice from nearby 2 syllables joined together. One of the syllables was taken from the 16th letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, and the other from the 21st letter of the Sanskrit alphabet. And both joined to become the wealth of the renounced order of life. So what are those 2 syllables? Ta, pa. He hears this while he's trying to figure out, before the material creation has taken place. And he's confused, and he's trying to figure out who he is, what's the purpose of life, and he hears ta, pa. And Prabhupada says, in Sanskrit language, the consonant alphabets are divided into 2 divisions, namely the Sparsa Varnas and the Talvalya Varnas. From Ka to Ma, the letters are known as Sparsa Varnas. And the 16th of the group is called Ta, whereas the 21st letter is called pa. So when they are joined together, the word tapa, or penance, is constructed. This penance is the beauty and wealth of the Brahmanas and the renounced order of life. According to Bhagavata philosophy, every human being is meant simply for this tapa and for no other business, because by penance only can one realize his self and self-realization, not sense gratification. That is the business of human life. This tapa, or penance, was begun from the very beginning of the creation, and it was first adopted by the Supreme Spiritual Master, Lord Brahma. By tapasya only, one can get the profit of human life, and not by polished civilization of animal life. The animal does not know anything except sense gratification in the jurisdiction of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. But the human being is made to undergo tapasya for going back to Godhead, back home. When Lord Brahma was perplexed about how to construct the material manifestations in the universe and went down within the water to find out the means and the source of his lotus seat, he heard the word tapa vibrated twice. Taking the path of tapa is the second birth of the desiring disciple. The word upasrinat is very significant. It is similar to upanayana, or bringing the disciple nearer to the spiritual master for the path of tapa. So Brahmaji was thus initiated by Lord Krishna, and this fact is corroborated by Brahmaji himself in his book, the Brahma Samhita. In the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma has sung in every verse, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Thus Brahma was initiated by the Krishna mantra, by Lord Krishna himself. And thus he became a Vaishnava, or a devotee of the Lord, before he was able to construct a huge universe. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that Lord Brahma was initiated into the 18-letter Krishna mantra, which is generally accepted by all the devotees of Lord Krishna. Now, let's see. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That is 19. Let's do it again. Govindam. Oh no, wait a minute. It's not Govind. Yeah, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That's 18. Yeah. Okay, so it's talking about Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that Lord Brahma was initiated into the 18-letter Krishna mantra, which is generally accepted by all the devotees of Lord Krishna. We follow the same principle because we belong to the Brahma Samhita, directly in the disciplic chain from Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, from Vyasa to Madhva Muni, from Madhva Muni to Madhavendra Puri, from Madhavendra Puri to Ishwara Puri, from Ishwara Puri to Lord Chaitanya, and gradually to His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, our Divine Master. So that gives you a little bit of a quick understanding of what our lineage is of the Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. One who is thus initiated in the disciplic succession is able to achieve the same result or power of creation. Wow, that means every one of us could become a Brahma in the future if we follow Krishna consciousness sincerely. Chanting of this holy mantra is the only shelter of the desireless, pure devotee of the Lord. Simply by such tapasya or penance, the devotee of the Lord achieves all perfections like Lord Brahma. Okay, so then next, verse 7. When he heard the sound, Brahma tried to find the speaker, searching on all sides. But when he was unable to find anyone besides himself, he thought it wise to sit down on his lotus seat firmly and give his attention to the execution of penance, as he was instructed. So, this is the formula for success in life. Prabhupada says, to achieve success in life, one should follow the example of Lord Brahma, the first living creature in the beginning of creation. Remember yesterday at the end of the class I said, it's so important to understand this history of Brahma because it actually explains how to achieve ultimate success in spiritual life. After being initiated by the Supreme Lord to execute tapasya, Brahma was fixed in his determination to do it. And although he could not find anyone besides himself, he could rightly understand that the sound was transmitted by the Lord himself. Brahma was the only living being at that time. We're talking about the material world. It doesn't refer to the spiritual world. Spiritual world is going on. It's full of billions and billions of liberated souls. But when it says he was the only living entity at that time, it's talking about the material world, and it's right before the material creation. Brahma was the only living being at that time because there was no other creation, and none could be found there except himself. In the beginning of the first canto, in the first chapter, first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it has already been mentioned that Brahma was initiated by the Lord from within. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye. The Lord is within every living entity as the supersoul. And he initiated Brahma because Brahma was willing to receive the initiation. The Lord can similarly initiate everyone who is inclined to have it. As already stated, Brahma is the original spiritual master for the universe. And since he was initiated by the Lord himself, the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is coming down by disciplic succession. And in order to receive the real message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one should approach the current link or spiritual master in the chain of disciplic succession. After being initiated by the proper spiritual master in that chain of succession, one should engage himself in the discharge of tapasya, in the execution of devotional service. So what is our tapasya today? Follow the regulative principles. Chant Hare Krishna. Eat only prasadam. Hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Go on Sankirtan and engage in deity worship, etc. Very simple. It's not difficult. Look at what Brahma has to go through, right? One should not, however, think himself on the level of Brahma to be initiated directly by the Lord from inside, because in the present age no one can be accepted to be as pure as Brahma. The post of Brahma to officiate in the creation of the universe is offered to the most pure living being, and unless one is so qualified, one cannot expect to be treated like Brahmaji directly. But one can have the same facility through unalloyed devotees of the Lord through scriptural injunctions, as revealed in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam especially, and also through the bona fide spiritual master available to the sincere soul. So you have Guru, you have Shastra, and you have Sadhu. These three people can help us make spiritual advancement. The Lord himself appears as a spiritual master to a person who is sincere in heart about serving the Lord. Therefore, the bona fide spiritual master who happens to meet the sincere devotee should be accepted as the most confidential and beloved representative of the Lord. If a person is posted under the guidance of such a bona fide spiritual master, it may be accepted without any doubt that the desiring person has achieved the grace of the Lord. Hari Bol. Okay, so then the last verse, verse number 8, it says, Lord Brahma underwent the penances for 1,000 years by the calculations of the demigods. He heard this transcendental vibration from the sky, and he accepted it as divine. Thus he controlled his mind and senses, and the penances he executed were a great lesson for the living entities. Thus he is known as the greatest of all ascetics. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma heard the occult sound, tapa, but he did not see the person who vibrated the sound, and still he accepted the instruction as beneficial for him, and therefore he engaged himself in meditation for 1,000 celestial years. 1 celestial year is equal to 6 times 30 times 12 times 1,000 of our years. His acceptance of the sound was due to his pure vision of the absolute nature of the Lord. And due to his correct vision, he made no distinction between the Lord and the Lord's instruction. There is no difference between the Lord and the sound vibration coming from him, even though he is not personally present. The best way of understanding is to accept such divine instruction. And Brahma, the primeval spiritual master of everyone, is the living example of this process of receiving transcendental knowledge. The potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam or Srimad Bhagavad Gita or any revealed scripture in the world is never to be accepted as an ordinary mundane sound without transcendental potency. One has to receive the transcendental sound from the right source, accept it as a reality, and prosecute the direction without hesitation. The secret of success is to receive the sound from the right source of a bona fide spiritual master. Mundane manufactured sound has no potency, and as such, seemingly transcendental sound received from an unauthorized person who has no potency. One should be qualified enough to discern such transcendental potency, and either by discriminating or by fortunate chance, if one is able to receive the transcendental sound from the bona fide spiritual master, his path of liberation is guaranteed. The disciple, however, must be ready to execute the order of the bona fide spiritual master, as Lord Brahma executed the instruction of his spiritual master, the Lord himself. Following the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple, and this completely faithful execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. Lord Brahma controlled his 2 grades of senses by means of sense perception and sense organs, because he had to engage such senses in the execution of the order of the Lord. Therefore, controlling the senses means engaging them in the transcendental service of the Lord. The Lord's order descends in disciplic succession through the bona fide spiritual master, and thus execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is factual control of the senses. Such execution of penance in full faith and sincerity made Brahmaji so powerful that he became the creator of the universe. And because he was able to attain such power, he is called the best amongst all the tapasvis. Haribol. So this is a lead up to what we're studying today in this verse. That is, we just did verse 22. And okay, so we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. This is all very interesting because you can see the story of Brahma is not going on only in the first canto and the second canto, but it's going on in the third canto also, and also in the Brahma Samhita. So you see how important it is to learn how Brahma developed the qualification to be the creator of the material universe. But he's not the primary creator. Krishna is the primary creator. And he clearly says that. So there's no doubt about it. Okay, and then we went over some of the qualities of a bona fide spiritual master. Are there any questions?
So Maharaj, maybe there's some small confusion for me. In the prior, the count was like 1,000 celestial years, and that was, I think when we did the math, it was like 2.16 billion years.
It's actually 3.11
Okay, because in the
trillion, and
so did the Brahma meditate for 100 years or
1,000?
1,000
okay.
celestial years?
Okay.
Or yeah, there's some confusion. Maybe we can do this follow up.
The problem is that when it talks about celestial years, it's different than just one cycle of 4 ages.
Hmm.
And then we also read that there's a difference between the Divya and, what is it? One second.
Divya years.
Yeah, there's the Divya
Divya Yuga.
years, and then there's the, what was the other one?
Celestial years?
Celestial years. No. One second. Let me find that.
We can do further research. I'll also study some more and see if
Okay, well, we'll have to come back to this tomorrow.
yeah, sure. And then you mentioned one thing, was that if we sincerely follow Krishna conscious path, that one could become Brahma. But is the real desire of a devotee to become Brahma or to transcend the whole material existence?
The real goal is to go back to Godhead. But okay, it says 1 celestial year is equal to 6 times 30 times 12 times 1,000 of our years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 1 celestial years, but he's living for 1,000 celestial years. Okay, so maybe you can do all that math for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the goal is to go back to Godhead, but understanding the example of Brahma is very, very informative to understand, the level of dedication we need to go back to Godhead. We have to be completely immersed in pure devotional service. Now, we can't imitate Brahma, but we can follow in the footsteps of Brahma. He had an absolute, let's say, firm vow to only be involved in spiritual activity, not anything else. So that's the type of vow we make when we get first and second initiation, that most of our time is going to be involved in spiritual activity. So we dovetail our activities into Krishna consciousness. So you can dovetail your business activities, you can dovetail your social activities, you can dovetail your educational activities into Krishna consciousness. By, like for example, someone wants to be an artist, so instead of doing modern art, they keep performing artistic, creative things based on Krishna consciousness. And there's millions of subjects in Krishna consciousness, you know, different pastimes of the Lord and so forth. So this is what Prabhupada advised the artists. He said, look, you don't study art to become a modern artist. You don't even have to study art. Just practice art and to represent Krishna and his pastimes. And there's thousands, millions of pastimes of the Lord. So that's dovetailing your artistic abilities into Krishna consciousness. You can be a sculptor, you can be a painter, you can be a musician, whatever. Just it should all be dovetailed into Krishna consciousness. Okay, any other questions?
So Maharaj,
Yeah.
Brahma accepted Krishna and he read in the Brahma Samhita he told Ishvara Parama Krishna. So like that any Shiva also accepting like that is there, Maharaj, anywhere?
Yeah. Yes. Shiva is a pure devotee of Krishna. So what do you want to know about Lord Shiva?
Something mentioning like this, Maharaj.
Well, yeah. 1 second. Shiva is. Let's see, 1 second. I have that information here somewhere. Shiva is completely dedicated to Lord Krishna, even more so than Lord Brahma. Okay, anyway, first of all, for what you're going to do, Chaitanya Prabhu, it's Canto 3, Chapter 8, and verse number 22. That gives you a lot of information right there. Huh? Yeah, Canto 3, Chapter 8, verse 22. And then, okay, so for Lord Shiva, just hold 1 second. It says here, why don't I do this tomorrow to answer your question? All right, I read it this morning earlier, but let me see if I can find it real quickly. There's a lot of information here about comparison of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Anyway, I'll find this and we'll go over it tomorrow. Okay? Yeah. Yeah.
Our parampara comes from Brahmaji, and then Brahma was given the mantra, which is
Govindam
Adipurusha. Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Is there any, I mean, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came, he identified Maha Mantra as the primary mantra for us. Is there?
Yeah, but he also brought the Brahma Samhita and gave it to the devotees. So, but he emphasized the Maha Mantra, but he didn't de-emphasize Govindam Adi Purusham, right? We wouldn't know about Govindam Adi Purusham
If not for him.
Yeah. Yeah, Krishna above 371. Yeah. Anyway, I'll give that information tomorrow about Lord Shiva. No more questions, then we'll have Aarti. Guru Puja.
Shall I start?
Go ahead.
Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma
Kevala Bhakati Sadma Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bandhu Mui Savadana Mate
Andamui Savadana
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Turiya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Ate Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Te Guriya Gya Padma Vakya Chite Te Guriya Gya Arana Goriyo Mane Asha Arana kori ho mane asha. चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेदे गाय हरा चरितो वेदे गाय हरा चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु लोकनाथ लोके राजीवाना हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पाद छाया हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पाद छाया ये बेजास गुसुक त्रिभुवाना ये बेजास गुसुक त्रिभुवाना श्रीला प्रभुपाद पतित पावना जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्या देशधारिणे पुरवाणि व्रजारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्या देशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Namacharya Sri Hari Das Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Govardhan Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavani ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya. Namaste, says. The lotus feet are spiritual. Are the only way by which we attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet, great honor and reverence.
By
His grace
one
will
can cross
cross
the
the
ocean
ocean
of
to suffering
and
attain the mercy of Krishna.
My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words of meditation in lotus feet. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic delight. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the overflow of mercy, the friend of the poor, Lord and master of the devotees. Oh, Master, be merciful to us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.